In a traditional village, there used to be those who were called elders. They were seen as the repositories of experience, wisdom, which they wanted to share with succeeding generations.
Wisdom isn't an old guy on the top of a mountain with a loincloth and waist-length hair. Wisdom, to me, isn't an answer anyway. Wisdom is a question. It's like your mother saying, "Where have you been to this time of night?" The question was the answer. She didn't want you to tell her. And I think that's where wisdom is. It's in the constant questioning of where you are. And when you stop wanting to know, you're dead. You're walking, but you're dead.
Yes, into angazibona ngathini. Lona lichenjekile alisesengilo ngoba angithi lokhaya umntwana nalele sile kwagangileko uthathiswa zumthusi uthi ungasayenza lento.
Wisdom is about experience. Your experiences in your life, which hopefully would include risk-taking and being somewhat adventurous.
I suppose, importantly, risk it. Go for it. You know, life always gives you another chance, another go at it. It's very important to take enormous risks and do the most daring.
You don't stop doing things because you get old. You get old because you stop doing things. People say you're very good for your age or something. I say, well, I haven't got time to grow old. I just don't have time. Far too busy.
I had thought, now when I get old, there's going to be this sort of blissful sitting back and just feeling wise. Couldn't have been more wrong. Old age is a second adolescence.
I get sillier as I get older, so I don't know what wisdom means. I can only kind of pass on something that I've been acquainted with and let whoever it is pick the bones out of it. I don't know anything about wisdom, really.
I had a very, very clear picture of what the world was when I was in my early 20s, and I knew how to fix it up, and I knew what everybody should do. And then by the time I was in my early 30s, I had a totally different picture of what the world was and how to fix it up and what everybody should do. And then it happened again when I was about 45. So I reached the point where I looked back and I said, God, I had a very complete and lucid philosophy of life 3 times in my life, and 3 times I've abandoned them. I said, so what do I live by now? And one of the things I try to do is not to believe in too much.
If you think of wisdom as this big pot that people have been putting stuff in for thousands of years, somebody invented a safety pin and threw that in the pot. When I was a kid, somebody put the Salk vaccine in the pot to ward off polio. Maybe during your lifetime, somebody will put an HIV vaccination in the pot, and then somebody puts music in the pot, and they put theater in the pot. There's all this stuff that goes in the pot.
Knowledge is really the most important thing. Without knowledge, there is nothing that can come out of any value. Fill your brain with as much as possible information that you can.
It's not about brains. It's not about the accumulation of knowledge. It's about being decent. If you can be pleasant and nice, you're going to be conned, absolutely for sure. But in the long run, over 75 years, it's a better journey.
There are 3 words that will open any door. Any door. Door of the building and door of the mind, door of the heart, any door you like to think. 3 words. Thank you and please.
Everyone has something to contribute that comes from them. Giving and sharing and gentility and graciousness is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
I never try to impart wisdom because I feel I don't have much really. But I do love to share the passion, the love, the ecstasy through my music.
There was an experiment done with mice, and they wanted to know what conditions caused the brain to really grow. So they took one mouse and they put him in a cage, and they gave him everything he wanted. And they put another mouse in a cage. He had everything, but he had to run a treadmill. The third mouse, they put him in a cage, and twice a week they took him out, put him through a maze. He had to go up a pole, and he'd be 20 feet above a tub of water below, and, enough to put a little edge to it. And they had MRI'd the brains of these mice, and afterwards they sliced up the brains to look at dendrite growth. Well, the mouse that had everything, he didn't grow a single dendrite. The mouse that had to run, he grew dendrites, but he didn't connect them. And the mouse that had to survive, he grew a lot of dendrites and connected them all. If the brain is going to grow, you gotta live. You gotta really live.
One thing about when you're playing a match in tennis is that you can't say, stop, I want to do another take, or can I play that over? One of the things it taught me is every ball that comes to me, I have to make a decision. And I have to accept responsibility for the consequences every time I hit a ball.
Life lesson for me that was given to me by an old friend who was like the elder in my tribe, I called him. He made me understand how other people saw me. It was painful at first to understand it. The most important thing a person can do is to understand how they're coming across. And if you're full of baloney, they know it, right? People usually know it. But if you don't know that they know it, you're wasting your time.
I think a single person can start by perhaps liking himself or herself. Wisdom could very well start with a little perspective.
I think of myself as a grain of sand. You're just a grain of sand. And you can make a difference, because if you ever walked around with a grain of sand in your shoe, it's not comfortable. All you have to do in your life is go for broke at every point. And when you're done, you would not have changed everything. But you, as that grain of sand, have done what you were called to do.
Serve others. Almost the unfailing recipe for happiness and success. It is more blessed to give than to receive, because in giving, although it doesn't seem so, you receive.
What you have to do is to remain true to that which you believe in. That's a play, isn't it? You've got to get through the third act. You really have. And you've got to finish as strongly as you began. And if that's the proposition, then get to work.
I always thought that inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. If you wait around for the clouds to part and a bolt of lightning to strike you in the brain, you're not going to make an awful lot of work. But if you just get to work, something will occur to you, and something else will occur to you, and something else that you reject will push you in another direction. I work every day. I work essentially, now that my children are grown and out of the house, I work essentially 365 days of the year. I work Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It doesn't make any difference. And, the pleasure I get and the momentum that comes from just keeping working. Any day that you don't do any painting is a totally lost day. Any day that you just do a little something, all those little pieces of something add up.
I think the happiest way of life is to be developing or making things, whether they're making ideas or they're making products and just making things, growing things.
I'll write from 6:30 in the morning for 12 hours, and I won't even get up, not for a cup of tea or anything. It is, for me, a total period of concentration. And at 6 o'clock, or when the 12 hours are up, bang, a curtain comes down. And I don't think a thing about what I've done all day. It's all over.
I usually work from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. and occasionally later for, on average, 6 days a week. If I weren't doing that, I'd be very unhappy indeed. The idea of retirement is ridiculous. Retirement means that you need less sleep, 2 hours less sleep as you get older. Therefore, you can increase your productivity by perhaps 15%. That's not widely understood.
One of the reasons I haven't slipped into some sort of retirement is I always feel like I'm learning something new all the time. I suppose there was a time in my life when I was doing westerns and on the plains of Spain with Italian companies that I could have stayed there and probably knocked out a dozen more of them. But there was a time when I said, no, that's enough of that.
A new idea is obsolete, like in seconds. I just said it and now it's obsolete. Intuitively, when I see something that I've done before, I go away from it.
Yes, I don't know where the ideas come from. They come from outer space, or from God, if you like, or from my subconscious mind. But I never go out self-consciously looking for a story. The story has to come to me. They haven't let me down yet.
You could go for months and not find a thing that excites you. That's a very, very tricky thing to even talk about because it's like making love. Sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't.
One of the things I learned, of course, was never to hoard ideas and keep them back because either they're not so relevant or they've gone stale or whatever it is. So pour them out.
The easiest thing in the world, if you're very talented, is to take that for granted, which you must never, ever do. And the people who I've interviewed, who I've admired most of all, have never done that at all. They've continued working and working and believing all the time that they're not quite there.
I've never, ever, in 51 years, done a play that has come easy to me. I've always had to... There's always been a jump in it before I've gone into it. But I like to push myself to the fear level of going to fall right off the cliff. It's frightening anyway, having to act, I think. And the more you do, the more frightened you get. But there is something about the fear that's absolutely wonderful.
Most of us give up too early. Failure is an absolute essential in life. If we never failed, how could we possibly succeed? Because we could only extend ourselves to the limit of what we know. Failure teaches us what we don't know. Of course you're going to fall down. Of course you're going to. But it's your way, and when you get to the end, you'll know something. Persistence.
Acting has that little fatality in it. You know, you could fail horribly here. It's a little death, you know. And if it doesn't scare you, then don't do it because you ain't going to do any good.